myself off the floor.
Welcome to Difficult Conversations About Beauty. My name is Anita East, and I'm a nurse practitioner specialising in aesthetic, skin, and integrative medicine. I'm so delighted to have you here. But can I get you to do me a favour and just look around you out there? It can be super confusing trying to work out what's true and what's not in this world of beauty and health. So during each episode, we seek to dispel the myths, find the truth, and empower one another with ready-to-implement advice that will make your life so much better than before you started listening. Just as a reminder, the podcast is not intended as a substitute for the medical advice of legitimate healthcare practitioners. The listener should regularly consult a healthcare practitioner in matters relating to their health, particularly with respect to any symptoms that may require diagnosis or medical attention. Thank you so much for listening and enjoy. Well, hello. What a wonderful time to be here today. What is the date in actual fact? Do you know what? I don't know. It's mid-March. That's all I know. Mid-March 2024. And I am absolutely thrilled that you are joining me here on my solo episode of Difficult Conversations About Beauty, following on from my incredible interview with Angie Kent. Now, we all know Angie. She's loved widely across Australia and globally as well. She's a much-loved Australian personality, known for her sassy girl next door charm. She first became a household name through her appearance on the TV show Gogglebox, and that's where her popularity in Britain also soared. Following that, she went on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, and that's actually when I first met Angie. I met Angie just as she was wrapping up on Gogglebox and just before she went into the jungle for I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. Later on, she undertook the role of the Bachelorette, whereby she spent 3 months in the Bachelorette house with eligible or not so eligible men who were vying for her attention. And through that process, Angie came to know and understand herself very, very well, what she wanted in life, especially what she didn't want in life. Now, following The Bachelorette, she was paired up with a particular man. She chose a particular one of the contestants, and then COVID hit. So basically, have a listen. If you haven't yet, please listen to our episode, which is the episode prior to this, which is basically called I Interviewed Angie Kent about her cosmetic medicine experience, and all I could do was apologize. In this solo episode, what I want to do is explore further what Angie and I discussed, and also what I've considered and digested as a result of our interview. So what I love about Angie is she's so very open and honest, and she had a pretty bad experience, not just one, but a few pretty bad experiences in the non-surgical cosmetic medicine space. And it's during this time that Angie decided that it was time to speak out about what had happened. So I knew Angie, and her and I had a healthcare relationship. I've got to be careful not to imply anything here. So we had a healthcare relationship whereby she was seeking healthcare advice, and I consulted her on treatments that I could offer her for reducing the appearance of wrinkles. However, there was a period there where she couldn't get to me because of COVID and frequent lockdowns and so forth, that she sought treatment elsewhere. And it was during one of these particular treatments that Angie says that she was told that she looked tired and she looked unattractive, and that the way that she could look less tired and look more attractive was to have a more defined chin and a more defined jawline and bigger lips and bigger cheeks. Now, in our episode, we do explore this and we talk about the detrimental impact that happened when Angie had all of these extra treatments done. For a year, it impacted her negatively, both her mental and her physical health, to the point where she didn't want to go out. People were saying horrible things to her on social media, because that's everyone's a keyboard warrior, so to speak. Her friends weren't necessarily saying things to her face, but in the end, her mum said something to her and begged her to stop. I saw her on social media. I saw what was happening to her face, and to me it was a little bit like watching a car crash in slow motion, and it broke my heart, because from knowing Angie and knowing her face very well, I knew that what was most beautiful about her face was not anything other than her huge, beautiful eyes, particularly when she smiled. And that's what the camera loves about Angie. And that's why she's always being chosen to present on TV shows and so forth, is because the camera loves her, because her eyes, when she smiles, are so honest and truthful and authentic. And she is the girl next door to all of us. She's a young woman that we can all look up to. And this was changing before my very eyes. So I was watching Angie's beautiful face be transformed into this kind of, where she was getting this really large defined jaw and this really protruding and large chin and bigger lips. And suddenly I realized what was happening. But I messaged Angie just out of the blue, and I think I might have commented on one of her posts, and I said, "How are you?" And that was it. But it was after her mum said something to her that she realized that something needed to be done about what had been done to her face. She was terribly overfilled. And because she was in such a vulnerable period of her life, she'd just broken up from the contestant, the person that she'd chosen on The Bachelorette, and it was hugely public knowledge. Often when we go through a breakup, it's a little bit more private, but this was basically out there for the picking, for everyone to see and to pick apart and pull apart. So Angie felt very vulnerable. She sought advice from a clinician who said that she could make her feel better by doing particular things to her face, having particular treatments done. In actual fact, Angie felt a lot worse. She ended up spiraling into quite a bad stage in her life, because she looked so different and therefore felt so different. She sought to have it dissolved, but was advised against it from the clinician. She has since had it all dissolved. But I think it's really important that we discuss what happens to us when someone tells us that we're looking unattractive or that we're looking tired. And I think as clinicians in the space of non-surgical cosmetic medicine, as well as cosmetic medicine, we have to be really mindful of the way that we talk to our patients. We can't say things to them like, "Oh, this is wrong and this is wrong, and you need to have this fixed, and you're really deflated here, and you've got these wrinkles here, and you've got this here, and your lips are small and your chin is small and your jaw is weak," right? They're all negative connotations about someone's appearance. And what right do we have as clinicians to say things like that? We don't. We have no right to say things like that. So we have to be really mindful that our patients' faces are not something that needs to be fixed. There is nothing wrong with our patients' faces. There's nothing wrong with anyone's faces. It's a judgment call to look at someone and to break down their face into separate parts and to say, well, your chin doesn't represent what is considered the perfect chin. Therefore, you need to have treatment A, B, and C. Your lips are not the perfect proportion as defined by whoever. I mean, who gets the right to say that to us? Who gets the right to define what's perfect or not? So it's really important that we understand that non-surgical cosmetic medicine isn't the same as other areas of medicine. We're not looking at a symptom that's causing pain or distress or illness and looking for a solution for that problem, okay? What we're doing is we're looking at someone's face who is, and their face is perfectly functioning. It's not causing them or other people any harm. So why are we offering treatments based on what's considered the perfect set of lips or the perfect chin or the perfect jawline or the perfect cheeks? What we should be doing in actual fact is looking at the face and saying, well, what is most beautiful about your face? How can we ensure that what is most beautiful about your face remains as beautiful, remains the most beautiful thing about your face? And therefore look at treating our patients in a way that doesn't actually inflict pain on them that they didn't have beforehand. Angie talks quite openly about the fact that she was distressed for quite some time after being overfilled, and overfilled to such a way that she couldn't even smile anymore. She actually says in our episode, you'll have to have a listen, that she struggled to lift up the corners of her mouth so she could smile. And that's huge. We've taken a person who was healthy, who had no issues, had no disease, had no pain, and we've actually inflicted pain on them by our own definition of what their chin should look like and what their cheeks and their jawline should look like. And that's wrong. So we need to understand that the perfect face is not up to us to decide. You know, we've got to be discussing inclusivity in the space of cosmetic medicine and in the space of non-surgical cosmetic medicine. Inclusivity refers especially to the recognition and the acceptance that beauty comes in all shapes and sizes. It challenges the outdated notion of a single universal standard of beauty, and it acknowledges that every individual has unique features that make them beautiful. So inclusive cosmetic medicine seeks to enhance one's individual beauty rather than trying to fit everyone into this predefined mold. It promotes diversity and individuality and respects the natural appearance of each person. So that's pretty obvious. I mean, that's basically what I wrote my whole book, Beautiful Unique Faces, on. I wrote this book a couple of years ago out of a moment of desperation. Well, it was more than a moment. It was quite a few moments. It took a little while to write it. But I wrote it because I was seeing surrounded by me, my colleagues becoming obsessed with breaking the face down into parts, breaking the face down into jaw, chin, cheeks, lips, mid-face, upper face, lower face, neck. And I was thinking to myself, this isn't right. This is what we need to be doing, is looking at someone's face as a whole, deciding with them, including them in the consultation, what's most beautiful about them, and then deciding, if anything at all, if there is any proposal for a treatment based on finding the things that are detracting from what's most beautiful about their face and helping to soften them so they're no longer standing out as much. So it's interesting because shortly after my episode, so my episode with Angie was released on Wednesday. 2 days later, the TGA, which is the Therapeutic Goods Administration of Australia, released new guidelines for our profession, for the profession of non-surgical cosmetic medicine. And in these guidelines, they quite clearly state that certain terms are not to be used, they're forbidden. The display of certain before and after photos that are used creating Schedule 4 medicines are also prohibited. So in the past, what's always happened is that people, clinicians, my colleagues, will post a photo of a person's face, generally a woman, and generally an already beautiful woman, which has always struck me as odd because they're absolutely beautiful. So what they're perfect. They don't need anything done. They'll post a picture of a face beforehand, and then they'll post the after photo. And in that after photo, they'll generally have plumped up the lips, defined the cheeks, made the jawline more strong, if you like, and made the chin, perfect proportions. And it'll generally be to, some kind of poppy, trending music at the time as well. And in the caption, it'll say something like, look at this babe, such a hottie afterwards. She had, this treatment done to this treatment done to this, and she's so much happier now. DM us or ring us or email us or book in online to have the same treatment done. And there'll generally be hashtags like hot babe, or my patients are hotter than yours, which is always a fun one. And that very much, to my mind, is enticing someone who happens to be scrolling, because it is essentially scrolling. There's no defined, you can't have a thing on your social media that says, please only look at this photo and if you are interested in non-surgical cosmetic medicine. Okay, it's like someone walking down the street and just happening to look at your business window decal, if you like, or happening to look over, at a house or something like that. It's there is no kind of first step of checking that the person who's looking at the post is actually already providing informed consent for receiving the information that they're about to receive. So anyone looking at these posts that show these glamorized before and after photos are most definitely being enticed by the use of music, by the use of filters, by the use of lighting, by the language, the emotive language, and by the huge changes between the lips before the treatment and then the lips after the treatment. They're being influenced, they're being enticed to uptake or inquire or have a Schedule 4 medicine, which is what the TGA is trying to avoid. In Australia, the advertisement of Schedule 4 medicines has never, ever, 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 ever been allowed. So this is no different. The medicines that I use in my clinic are Schedule 4 medicines. They are not allowed to be advertised on social media or on my website or in any way, shape, or form to the general public. So we have to remove certain terms from our websites, from our marketing, from our social media. We are not allowed to promote before and after photos, so pictorial marketing that is likely to entice a general member of the public to have a Schedule 4 medicine. Yet, what is happening out there, and something that Angie did say when I asked her, I said, Angie, what can we do to make it better? What can we do to ensure that what happened to you doesn't happen to other people? And she said, can we as clinicians, she asked for us as a collective whole, as clinicians of non-surgical cosmetic medicine, can we behave more ethically? I think that pretty much sums up what we should have always been doing. We shouldn't be looking for loopholes in these new guidelines and thinking, oh, well, we can still post before and afters, but we just won't write a caption. We won't say that we've used a certain type of treatment. We'll just leave it up to the interpretation of the general public. That's a loophole. And AHPRA very, very clearly, and the TGA very clearly say, please don't try and find loopholes. What we're trying to reduce is incidences like happened to Angie and many other people when they're being treated, when they're vulnerable, when they're being treated when they don't necessarily need a treatment, but they're enticed by the marketing that is so glamorous and so glitzy and so pretty. So I really do I'm really calling for my colleagues to essentially do no harm and to behave ethically in this profession of ours, because the last thing we want to do is lose all of our rights in this profession. The last thing we want to do is lose anything, because the TGA and AHPRA turn around and say, you know what, the naughty kids are still being naughty, so we're actually going to take everything from you. So let's think about us as a collective whole. Let's work collaboratively. Let's be inclusive when we're addressing our patients. Let's be inclusive when we're talking about treatments. And I encourage all of our listeners, all of my listeners of Difficult Conversations About Beauty, to advocate for ethical practices in the cosmetic medicine industry. If you see something that, as a general member of the public, if you see something that really, you see it and you go, oh gosh, I really need to have that done. I really need to have that treatment done. That means it's unethical. That means it's enticing you. If it's being used, if it's a Schedule 4 medicine that's being used to create that, then that's unethical. Imagine your daughters or your friends or your nieces or your neighbors or your family looking at something and thinking, well, the only way that I can be beautiful is by having a Schedule 4 medicine, which carries, the reason it's a Schedule 4 medicine is because it carries its own risks. It's been defined as a medicine. It's governed by a government body that governs medicines. It's very different to skin. You know, if we're doing stuff with skin, if we're doing chemical peels or we're doing laser, which currently isn't very highly regulated in Australia. If we're using skincare, if we're doing certain things that are related to skin that aren't involving a Schedule 4 medicine, then we can promote that, because the risk of causing harm to our patients as a result of using those things, using chemical peels that aren't prescription level, that using certain skin treatments and skincare, the risk of them causing harm is a lot less. So it's been a big one. It's been a big one. And certainly after Angie's episode, I have been analyzing everything that I do in my clinical practice and thinking, what I'm saying to this person, could that possibly be making them feel worse about themselves rather than better? Something I try and do with every single patient that I see is I always tell them, first off, what is most beautiful about their face. I might say, your unique feature is the color of your eyes. And therefore, we need to ensure that nothing that we do or that you consider detracts from your unique facial feature. Their unique facial feature might actually be their little crow's feet wrinkles when they smile. The last thing we want to do is change that. We need to be able to look at someone's face and decide it's not something that needs to be fixed. It's something that needs to be enhanced so they feel more like themselves rather than less like themselves. So I'd love you to take a moment and tune into my heartfelt chat with Angie Kent. Not only will you find our conversation enlightening, but it's also something you might want to share with your daughters, your friends, your family, and anyone else in your life. We do touch upon topics that are deeply connected to our social norms, and I do wish to advise that discretion is used when we do discuss certain things. There might be trigger words or trigger themes in my conversation with Angie. But I do hope that we can gain a broader understanding of beauty, inclusivity, and ethical practices in the cosmetic medicine industry. It's a conversation that will spark change, hopefully, and help us all embrace healthier, more inclusive views of beauty. Thanks so much for listening, and I can't wait to have more difficult conversations about beauty with you. As a final thing, what I always do in my solo episodes is I draw a card. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to draw a card from my unique beauty affirmation cards. And hopefully this will give us, well, not hopefully, it will give us some insight into what we need to utilize going forward for the next couple of weeks. Oh, this is interesting. It's fight. I've drawn the card fight, F-I-G-H-T. Wowzers, this is really, really paramount with what's happening in my profession at the moment. Let me read it to you. It says, two opposing forces, whether they be within yourself or with another person, store the most anger at the central point. The further away you place the opposing forces, the greater chance of peace. Fight is stagnant. Its power is in the fixated tendrils it grows. Make it move, shift a thought pattern, put your body in motion and watch your brain, heart, and soul follow. Space between the opposing forces allows for positive energy to flood in. Wow. So that's really poignant because at the moment I'd say half, I'd like to say more. I'd like to say 3/4 of the profession is all for, changes in the guidelines, changes in the regulations, and they're all for improving the ethical practice for our patients and the general public. But I'd say there's probably 1/4 of clinicians, of my colleagues out there, who are looking desperately for loopholes so they can continue practicing unethically. And maybe that's it. Maybe I need to, the further away you place the opposing forces, maybe I just need to step away from them and let, Big Brother, i.e. TGA and AHPRA, decide what to do. Anyway, in the meantime, stay safe out there, kids, and I will see you soon. Bye. Thank you for listening. If you have enjoyed this episode, please share. Remember to give it 5 stars and write me a kind review. Remember, kindness always comes back to us. All discussed links will be in our show notes. And until next time, may you revel in your beautiful and unique faces, both today and always.